Okay, guys, I'm Dez. I'm here with Sarah Clay, and we're going to just kind of go through her history with training and fitness, so you guys can see that where you are now is not where you have to be ongoing, and to inspire you just to take that next step towards whatever your goals may be. It doesn't have to be, going all in initially. Just try to do something to get yourself started, and then the rest will kind of fall in place. So I'm just going to ask Sarah a few questions, and she's just going to enlighten us on what her journey has been like over the. We can go back to the beginning, but we'll probably just mostly focus on the last year and a half or so, year that I've known you, and so let's kind of start with when you think back to. Maybe when you were at your least fit.
Yeah.
And can you remember how you felt just in general, like energy, self-confidence, and just kind of compare it to where you are now?
Yeah. Actually, I would say even kind of going back before even the time that I had met you, long before I had started with Siphon, was probably when I was at my worst. I was, honestly, I was pushing like 230 pounds, and I remember the feeling of my body physically starting to, it felt like it was shutting down. I couldn't do much of anything without being winded, like going up a flight of stairs, constantly being sick. Everything just felt gross.
Right.
And then slowly started to lose a little bit of weight, but of course I was still nowhere where I needed to be.
Now, when exactly was this period of time?
I would say I can really remember that back to probably about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And again, I had tried to make some lifestyle changes, but it's always still a struggle. Especially being in that position. Because you really have to dedicate that time and that work, and it's like. Working a full-time job, having a family, it's like, oh, well, you always find a way to come up with an excuse.
Prioritize everything but yourself.
Yes. So then, kind of fast forward, I started with Siphon. I would say probably about that time in my journey, I was pushing about 205 pounds at this point. So I had come down quite a bit of weight in those few years, but again, still not in anywhere healthy shape at all.
Right.
And then I had heard about the benefits of what Siphon had offered in regards to having the gym and then the program that was offered. So,
Wait, before you go there, now even before you started that, you were still active. Were you doing kickball too?
I was a bowler.
Bowling,
yeah,
and cornhole championships. Like you were like a champion.
I actually didn't start cornhole until just shortly after I started working. For Siphon, so wasn't quite there yet, but I was, again, bowling, I wouldn't say was really a vigorous active sport, but it was something. Right. So, but my journey really started to change after I started here.
Right.
So
when exactly did you start?
I started January of 2022. So it's been.
Oh, really? So you had just gotten here?
I literally just got here. Yep.
Okay, I didn't realize that. So shortly after you got here, you signed up for the Level 1 program. Yep,
I had heard about your app program. Again, I had checked out, the gym. They gave me the tour in my first week, and I said, okay, well, I can try it. It's free, so might as well. And then, a couple other people that had actually worked upstairs had said, hey, let's do this as a little group together. Let's try it out.
It was you, Denise, Kristen.
It was me, Denise, Angie, and Catherine at first.
Okay, Angie.
So, so we got in there, we tried it out, tried to dedicate certain time that we would go.
You guys started off really good. You started off really good.
Yeah, we were going, and then but we weren't. Of course, we're all kind of learning the exercises.
Yeah.
And you're kind of with the videos and the tutorials and stuff. You're being trained, but again, you don't really the accountability
is the accountability, the fluidity of the workout, because you don't have to stop and look at the app and do things like that. So it is very much beginner level.
Yes.
Which is good to an extent. but then kind of disaster kind of struck with your shoulders.
Yes. So somewhere in that time, I had injured my shoulder. I actually is still unknown to me how it actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I would try to go in there. But I started to lose momentum because I'm like, well, now I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Things hurt, and then also scheduling and actually getting a little bit more with my job. It was the excuses started coming back.
Right.
So, kind of fast forward a few more months, then.
This is like March to about March. Was it March, April?
It was probably March to
September?
about August is when I officially started your boot
August,
camp.
okay.
So kind of going through everything. I remember I had actually just come through the gym, and that's when I ran into you.
Right.
Now I'm on the chopping block. Where have you been? Well, I have no excuse, and at that point again, going back to the accountability, the discipline of having to be in there, and all the excuses came back. So it was like, well, I haven't really been in here. So talking to a couple of the other girls that are in my department, actually saying, I started asking questions about the actual boot camp program, and they're like, you really need to try it. And of course, my first thing about boot camp, when I hear boot camp, is there's no way. I'm not at that level to do boot camp.
And I hate when people call it boot camp because it's not boot camp, but people just kind of refer to it as boot camp because it's a group training, so that's kind of the automatic name, but it's more akin to personal training than it is to like just sergeant yelling at people, even though I do yell sometimes, but in a nice way. We had to work around some things because you had the shoulder issue, so we had to modify. But to your credit, you never quit.
Yeah.
You work through it all the time.
Once I actually got into the gym and started your actual boot camp and met the group of girls that I was working with, and really seeing that it doesn't matter how many years you've been going there, how many days you've been going there, everyone is in there for the same goals: to be healthy, to be fit, to lose weight, tone up, and everybody struggles. It doesn't matter what level of fitness you are.
Correct.
The girl that's been in there for 8 years is huffing and puffing just as hard as I am.
Yeah. And the trainer. Trainer too. So.
And that it took a lot of realization, again, taking that leap of faith to, of all the fears of, again, hearing the word boot camp and saying, I'm not that level. I've never been at that level. I can't do that. And actually just getting in there and roll your sleeves up and get your hands dirty and really learn, how to do things. Right. And, as you start to learn, you start to get a little more comfortable, and that's when, things started to change mentally for me, because then it's like, okay, well, we start making it fun. We do challenges. You're actually getting motivated by your peers, and I think that really is what drives success too. Is you realize that, again, these girls are in there struggling just as hard as you are, but they want you to succeed. So they're going to do whatever it takes to push you as well. Right. But at the end of the day, it's all on you, though. Right. Your success is going to come for how much you want it. Right. But that's where my mentality started to change, because I was like, I want this. I started seeing changes. I started documenting my progress through pictures, through a journal, sending in weight every day, even, what I'm eating. And as you start to see that, it's like you want a little more and a little more. And that drive then just becomes intense. Yeah. Like where you know what? I'm going for this next goal. I'm going to set this goal. I'm losing 10 pounds. I'm going to do it. Yeah. Whatever.
So let's talk about that, the milestone. So, in August, like you couldn't do push-ups, you couldn't press anything over your head, you could barely raise your arms at all.
Yeah.
You could barely run like a quarter mile. Like you were happy to run like a quarter mile. Like I ran a quarter mile without stopping.
Yeah.
Right? And let's fast forward to last month where you run a complete 5K.
Ran two complete 5Ks.
Yeah, 2 5Ks. Ran in 35 minutes. You ran without stopping.
Yep.
And you had me there yelling with you, running with you there at the end of one of them.
Yes.
But let's kind of walk through that journey of milestones and where you could see the improvements and how that helped to build your confidence and to help light the fire to keep going.
Yeah, actually, again, I kind of went started back. One of the girls told me, hey, the best way to document your progress is through pictures. So, first week in the gym, you know, after a workout, I snapped a picture of myself. Where my starting point was.
Mm-hmm.
Then 2 weeks in, snapped another picture, and then I tried to do it every month. And then, you know, by my 3 to 5 month, you started to see where there was actual physical changes in my body. And then even from a mental standpoint, like I'm starting to, you know, I feel like I have a clear mind, my mood's better. You know, I actually have goals set for myself. So then, I'm trying to think exactly, by that point in my 5 month point, I'd say I was probably down about 15 pounds, I think, at that point. I'm trying to remember.
January? About 5 months from
August.
Starting in
the last week of August is when I started your program. So, and again, I'd have to really look back to my journal because that's when I was really documenting my weight progress and everything. But again, you know, not only whereas I seen the physical changes of my body, but even like when I would get onto some of the machines, okay, my weight's starting to up. We're starting to push me to the next steps. And it actually came faster than I thought it was going to be. Again, I remember getting on that treadmill and I'm running at, you know, 5.0 on a 0% incline, and I can barely do it. To then go, you know,
ran at like 8. You ran at 8 or 9. Did you run at 9 one time?
One time I ran a 9
9
on a full pyramid. On a pyramid.
9 miles an hour, which is flying.
Yeah, which you know, my legs are short, so it felt like I was getting it, and I was gonna fly off the back of that treadmill. But you know, again, that was something I'd never done before. I never expected myself to do. And I will say, going through those journeys, you know, we started with a road challenge, then we started with a skier challenge. My crazy air bike challenge.
Yeah, that one hurt.
Yes. It's a good story to tell.
Yeah.
But then even, you know, to this last challenge in March, to challenge us to run however many miles that when we were put into the categories, and then to say, hey, you know, at first it was 30 miles, and then someone's like, hey, we should go for 40. It's kind of peer pressure.
That's the group mentality. It helps make everybody better.
It is, because they believe in me. They know I can do it. So that was kind of that first push. And then it was, you know, secretly all of us talking like, hey, we can actually go for more. We're going to go for 50. And then it was a 60.
Well, unbeknownst to y'all were so far ahead on the schedule that I was going to make it that anyway. But you guys decided on your own, so I didn't have to make you do it.
Yes. So I didn't quite make it to the 60 miles, but I made it to 56 miles.
Which is crazy. Because last August, you could barely run a quarter mile.
I couldn't even run a quarter mile.
Yeah. That's
without literally feeling like I was going to kill over just because I couldn't breathe. My body hurt, but again, it's that mental aspect to tell yourself, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep pushing. As I've told you before, even in some of my check-in days, it's like during that mile challenge, I would go run 4 miles here in the gym and then go home and try to run another 3 miles. Which that I've never in my life, even when I was active in sports and stuff growing up, I'd never run that far. But you know, it's kind of boosted my confidence where now I want to go run another 5K. Give me another 5K to go run. And you know, some of the girls and I are even talking about like, hey, let's go run a 10K now. So again, that, you know, I think about that, it's still scary, but it's like, I know I can, if I train, I put the dedication into it, I can do it. I can be there. So
let's be completely transparent with everybody. So this has been, you know, a journey in and of itself, and you know, I've kind of walked through it with you, but you know, we've had some. It's not all been everything's been great the whole time. Right? No, we've had some setbacks, some times where you know you just kind of felt out of it, felt low on energy, felt a little bit discouraged. Yeah. Sometimes where your eating might not have been all that great. You had some losses in your family. We had to travel out of town, kind of threw you off track. So just kind of give us, you know, just kind of some insight as to how you managed to keep going through the difficult times. Yeah, all that is true. There's always, life is always going to happen, and yes, there was some times where it's like,
you see the scales not moving, but it's, again, you need someone to call you out for you to realize, okay, are you actually eating what you're supposed to be eating? Yeah, you're in the gym, but if you're going to go home and shove a cheeseburger in your mouth and a pound of fries, it's not doing anything. And there were several times actually where it needed to be called out. And again, those weight check-ins, holding you accountable to making sure that you're staying on track, and now you have to report them to somebody else, so they're going to hold you accountable too. And of course things happen. Life gets stressful, and life is constantly on the go. But it's telling yourself it's an hour a day. 1 hour is really not that long to dedicate. And
one out of 24 is not too much to dedicate to taking care of what's keeping you going.
Yes, absolutely. To know that I will be able to see my daughter grow up. I'm going to live as long as I possibly can, and healthy, and even potentially make choices that will help impact them when my daughter grows up to be healthy. Right. Even friends and other family members around. It has not been easy, and yes, there's been times that I have failed, but again, you can't give up. You can't let that stop you, and getting right back in there, hitting the reset button. Let's get you back on track, and then again, resetting those goals. It's I'm a competitive person with all my sports. The girls know it in there. I am competitive. I don't like the feeling of failure. So that's what kind of motivates me to push me a little harder every day. So, and I think that's where it has been so successful for me, especially last month in that 5K, because that burn sets in and the fatigue, and all you want to do is stop. But I'm like, if I can just keep going, it's another 10 more minutes. It's another 5 more minutes. You're almost there. And then to make it to that final stretch and see all your peers screaming and cheering you on, or even like you at my first 5K, that last 0.1 of a mile, like it's not that far, but that's really when you want to give up.
It is.
And then you're going uphill. And that boost, that hey, you got this, that does something. That helps push you to the end. And then to actually know like you accomplished something, and that feeling of success, crossing that finish line, I mean, that was probably like the most amazing feeling. Even though I fell into the grass, I was so tired. But once my body recovered, it was one of the best feelings. Being able to put the medal around my neck and say, hey, I finished this. I again, it's something I've never dreamed I'd do.
So just real quick, to someone who is here will see this message and maybe where you were at this time last year, what would be your message to them?
Don't give up. There's going to be ups and downs, but what your results will be what you make of it. You put that dedication, that effort. You don't sit there and make the excuses, even though it's so easy to. And I mean, even there's times nowadays that I will try to make an excuse, but again, it's that accountability piece. Like I think you've even told me, you're surprised on what your body really can do. What you think is so hard, your body can go 10 times further. And if you actually take the time and the dedication, you will see that, and the results will show. I promise. I've looked at pictures back from 8 years ago, and I'm disgusted by it. And I look at myself now, and it's like, oh my gosh!
You're never going to allow yourself to go back to it.
I will never allow myself to go back to it. And the people.
And neither will I.
Yeah, and the people that I work with day in and day out in there, that is an amazing group of people. Like I said, they will push you to your limit. They will help you get to your goals. It is definitely it's another family in there. And I'm so thankful for what you've done for me so far. This journey is not over yet. I still have many milestones to still go, and I'm going to get there.